Hey everybody, Mark Hall here from Casting Crowns, and we're going to look at the book of Galatians today. Great stuff in Galatians. And in chapter 3, there's some pretty hard truth in there. And before we look at the verse, I want to tell you something that happened to me one time, because that's what youth pastors do. We tell stories. When it was my anniversary about 2 years ago in Atlanta, we decided to go on like a museum date. So we went and looked at all kinds of things, the bodies exhibit. Right? We went to another thing about being blind, what it would be like to be blind for a day. It was pretty amazing. And then we went to the last emperor of China, the Terracotta Army exhibit right there in Atlanta. They had many of the statues there, and we walked through this thing. Now, my wife is a little different from me, and she's a lot different from me. She reads like every poster on the wall, everything there is. She's going to go in the bathroom and make sure there's not anything in there she missed. I mean, she's going to read everything there is to know. I get done with the museum in about 30 minutes, okay? So because this is a date, I'm like, I need to slow down. I need to do this with her, you know? But luckily, this one was the kind where you put the earphones on. That's my kind of place. So I'm listening through the stories and walking through this giant terracotta army that was discovered in China that was built by the first emperor. And man, I heard something that day that just gripped me. The story is the very first emperor of China was very young. And China used to be several provinces. It wasn't a unified place. And when he came into power as a really young guy, he unified all provinces, brought them all together. He created one language, one written language. He created one currency. He started coming up with how they were going to battle and do wars. A lot of the ways that they do battle with archers and all that kind of stuff, he came up with all this stuff. He was just on a roll. He began the Great Wall of China, very young man, started as a teenager. And one day, everything changed. There was an attempt on his life. Someone got all the way to him before they were caught, and it freaked him out. Now, they didn't say freaked out in the museum language, but that's what happened. Something happened that day with the emperor, and he began to become consumed with dying. He began to look at, how can I not die? How can I cheat death? He had this feeling that all of these people that he had conquered in his day were going to come back and haunt him. So he started drinking potions. He was drinking mercury, everything he could do to cheat death. And one day, he got the idea. When I get into the afterlife, all the armies are coming after me. So I'm going to create an army to fight for me in the afterlife. He started gathering artists. He started gathering workers. And over 130,000 people were enslaved to work on his army. Was he inventing new languages at that point? Was he developing the kingdom anymore? I think it was around 7,000 figures were built. They're all about 6 feet tall. Everyone's different. There were archers, there were swordsmen, there were officers, there were cavalry, there were horses, everything you can think of. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands. It took 30 or 40 years for all these men to create this army of stone for him. None of them lived through it. He buried most of them right down there with his men, and he buried this army underground around his tomb. And nobody ever knew it happened. Some farmer one day is digging a hole, and it falls in, and they discover this stone army. Think about all the things that this emperor accomplished, and when one day, one attack just throws him totally off. Now he's totally he's sidelined. He doesn't know what he's going to do. He's trying to create a way to fight this battle for him. Look at the book of Galatians in chapter 3. Check this out. O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you? It was before your eyes that Jesus Christ was publicly portrayed as crucified. Let me ask you only this. Did you receive a spirit by works of the law or by hearing with faith? Are you so foolish that having begun with the Spirit, are you now perfecting yourselves by the flesh? The problem with the Galatians is they brought a lot of baggage into their faith with them. A lot of people were in Judaism. A lot of them were working their way to God. And they had to let all that go when they came to Jesus. They had to realize Jesus was the way, the truth, the life. No one comes to the Father but by Him. And they laid it all down. And somewhere in their new friendship with God, something shook them. Maybe they failed. Maybe they said, Lord, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, and they didn't. Maybe someone else brought up to them their past. Whatever it was, they began thinking, I need to figure out how to keep this going. So they started tacking things on to Jesus. I need to have these festivals. I need to do more of this stuff. I need to stop doing this stuff. And they began building a way to God instead of letting Jesus be who He was in their life. Man, is that ever you? That's me. I start off with Jesus. Everything starts off great. Somewhere along the line, I start thinking, man, I need to help this along. I need to speed this up. I need to figure out a plan B just in case this doesn't work. I got to have something else to bank on. Instead of Jesus being my plan A and my only plan, He starts becoming plan B. And I start building little armies to fight my battles for me. Man, when you read stuff like this, just ask yourself, Lord, am I really letting You run with this? Or am I trying to figure out a way to get around this in case it doesn't work? Jesus has got to be the only way. Jesus has got to be my source and my strength and my joy and my wisdom and my completion. He's got to be the well that I draw from. God bless you guys.